Yes, this is different. No, I won't apologize. I'm gonna be honest. I love watching video series, analyzing ARGs and internet horror, and always wanted to try it. The thing is, many are always ongoing or already covered. But you know what? Screw it at this point. So, I found this ARG by YouTube user Player30. Now, this ARG covers a lot of different, well, I don't want to say mediums, but there are community posts, shorts, and full videos. One other thing is that there's a lot of Russian text. Now, what do we all know Russia for? That's right, piracy! This is a Minecraft ARG, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with the first community post. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's weird system, I can't see when the date of the post was, but it was around the same time as the first video on the channel. But I want to review the community post first because it gives us an interesting question. Now, any and all Russian text will be Google translated, so if anyone can point out any translation errors, which I know who might, please leave them below. Since this looks like an updating ARG, I may make a follow-up video after this. But back to the post. Have you ever played a strange version of Minecraft? The answers are da, or yes in Russian, not, and who are you, uncle? So this pretty much sets up the premise for the rest of the series. Strange or off versions of Minecraft. Now we can finally see the first video on the channel, posted November 5th, 2023. Let's take a look-see. I'll narrate over most of the videos as they often have ear-splitting noise or just static or music, so unless there's something important, you have to deal with me. We see the player walking through a gray, monotone world, full of dark fog and gray blocks. There's only dirt and stone with the occasional gray trees. The player then falls into a hole where we see a singular mushroom, and then the world generation screen shows up and gives a series of words while it regenerates. But instead of generating world, it says creating isolation, raising, eroding, soiling, carving, growing, and planting. Then it generates the player in a new gray world full of black flowers. Then the camera goes crazy and glitches all over the place. The player gets stuck between blocks and tries to move the camera, but the screen goes black once the mushroom comes back into frame. Now, let's analyze it a bit more. Now, considering all the usual ARG tropes, the game refused to generate another level. It went dark on a specific object and... Damn it, no creepy ominous black figure, I was hoping for a bingo! Oh well, one might come up later. The video was titled, A Strange Version, and the description just says old music in English. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out is the version number. The top left corner shows 0.30. Now, 0.30 was a real version of Minecraft, so it's not like that one other ARG that's a split version case, so we can actually compare it to the regular version. One notable thing is that the player is also missing their inventory. We also can't tell if they're in survival or creative, because according to the Minecraft fandom wiki, this version came out in a creative mode and a survival mode, but both had an inventory slot. On to the next video. This one is called Minecraft 0.0.0. I'm actually glad it's named that because the video is slightly cropped so you can't read the version number very well, but the loading screen is also wrong. The Minecraft label is bit crushed to hell and just so broken looking with a bedrock background. Then there's also the options that threw me off. Single player and options make sense, but multiplayer wasn't added till Minecraft version 1.0.15, and mods and texture packs? Support wasn't up for either of those options around that time. Especially not the mods parts. Also, one last thing before we get further, it says copyright Mojang specifications. I forgot if that's what they actually used or not, but I remember it being a point in some other ARG, so forgive me if I'm just being stupid. On the select world screen, they already have a world 4 that is generated, but they decide to make a new one. While generating, for a split moment it says simulating world for a bit. Then we fade to the player walks around a bit with a thick fog across the terrain. And when we pass by a cow, we can see a faint rainbow text. Now playing C418. Die. Pop up. The player continues to walk, seeing cows and some chickens pass by. The player comes to a cliff where they fall in the water and the music cuts completely. Eerie silence. The player continues to climb, coming to a few dandelions. As they survey the surroundings, they see a singular red rose and a reddish figure under the tree. Due to pixelation, I can't quite make it out, but it looks like a player. Also, be lucky that you're hearing my voice. Normally a very sharp, ringing noise plays, and it's very annoying. The being disappears, and the player can move again. But the same odd effect happens from the last video, and the video ends. So we learned something interesting. Red seems to be a special color at the moment, and isolation might be a theme. Let me explain. So, in the first video, where the player saw the red variant of the mushroom in a grayscale environment, it freaked out. Now, it saw a red flower in a normal world with a reddish being. So it seems red is some form of trigger color, maybe due to it being different and unnatural compared to the surroundings. And I'm going to intervene off script for a moment. That is completely wrong, but I'm just going to give you all my theories as I was writing them. Now we can look into the themes of isolation. So obviously with the first video it mentioned isolation, but this one also seems to be linked with the theme somehow, with loneliness and the die track that plays. I don't know. I haven't quite figured that part out yet. I did say earlier that there were shorts, and the first short on the channel is just the glitch portion of the video clip, so we don't have to worry about that. But keep a pin in the idea because I want to revisit the shorts later. That was also previously in the script, and all these shorts are just clipped parts of the main videos, so we don't actually have to look at them. Thank God. Now here's where I get a little apprehensive. The video is called Minecraft and has a weird little exclamation mark in the title as well. The description translates to version will be released tomorrow. But there's a comment chain between a user and the uploader that goes on about when the video will be uploaded. Then the user asks if the whole channel is an ARG or just the videos with the ARG tag. Which I think is kind of rude. It ruins the story a bit, at least that's my opinion. The creator then says they will create a playlist specifically for the ARG stuff, but I'll also touch on that later. It opens on the folder that houses their Minecraft files, and they press a file that only has one character on it. I can't quite tell what the letter or symbol it is, but it looks like some Middle Eastern letter, or maybe Russian. But I could be completely wrong. The player clicks on it and gets booted to a similar Minecraft screen to the one before, but there's a noticeable blurred over Minecraft logo. The version says hi with a smiley face, and a bottom right text that says error, 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 I am asleep. The main options are also bugged, saying error / before all of them. One is let's go, smiley question mark. Player a player, mods and textures, and options. Pressing let's go, it shows the world screen with a world that is 0 megabytes. One other thing I want to bring to attention is the background. The blocks, instead of being bedrock or dirt, look like a corroded or rusted metal. Loading into the world, we see that the hotbar has all of the slots repeated with the word run, with the die song playing. Everything has slightly blurred textures, and the player tries to get some logs. The player opens their inventory and we see their skin, and the odd blank inventory texture. Then the player magically makes like 60,000 logs appear. Then the player goes down the mountain and it cuts to them walking through a tree trunk, and it cuts to the generation screen. Then there's a cut to a snowy biome where there's a rolling block static effect. It teleports the player 2 more times until they're at a sign that reads, I will change your fate for the worse. Die. The player now has the weird metal looking blocks in their inventory. Then they walk around to find a redstone torch path in which they cut to later in the night, picking up a dandelion. Then the player looks into the dark and cuts the video. One thing I'd like to point out is the die song. It's used twice in this video and once in the last. But the weird thing is that it's a different song every time it's played. I'll compare it to you for a second to explain. So here's the first time it was played. And here's the second. And this will continue to be a pattern. The next video is the longest on the channel at the moment, being about 8 minutes long. The video is called Inevitability, with no description. Let's look at it. The version shows an updated version of Minecraft, likely post 1.8, that shows the player finding a bedrock wall in the rain. They travel alongside it and find a hole to walk into with a sign that says, no way out. The player is affected with some blindness that makes it hard for them to see outside, so they walk through the tunnel. The player places a wooden block and moves forward to see 2 small craters in the ceiling of the tunnel. Then there's a sign that says end, and the player turns back. The player runs back, seeing the wooden block and the first sign they saw, but the entrance is gone, now replaced with more tunnel ahead of it. The player walks a while before putting another wood block down, and then even farther away they take a half a heart of damage. The player eats a cooked fish, and then we can hear the sound of the half heart damage, and the fish eating sound in repeat continuously. Then the player reaches another sign with more smiley faces on it, and the repeating sound stops. Then there's the crash of lightning that repeats for a bit until the player finds an iron sword and an apple. They then take another half heart of damage with the sound echoing again. Then the echoing stops when the player reaches a sign that says, "Tired of walking?" The player walks a bit further with a static sound in the background, cuts, and the tunnel changes. The lava's gone, visibility is gone, all that remains is bedrock. The player gets hit, losing a whole heart, and starts running, lighting the way with torches. Then, the lava and normal tunnel appearance comes back, and the player gets hit again. After running, there's a cut that's made to the video having the player lose 2.5 hearts until they get to a new sign claiming, "These will be the last hours of your life." The player continues to run, placing blocks sporadically, and then gets hit for some more damage. After throwing the fishing rod a few times, it cuts to the player losing another half heart of health. The player throws the fishing rod again and loses another half heart. But the end of the tunnel is a sign. Did that wall just disappear? Whatever. It opens into a bedrock chamber with glowstone lining the walls and a gold block in the middle. The player tries to mine it and gets teleported a few blocks back, summoning a rainbow-looking entity that flashes a large amount of random text in the chat box. And the video ends. Now this could be a random series of characters, and it may well be, but I guess that there could be code hidden in that block of text. Maybe hexadecimal or encrypted data, or it's just completely random. I don't know the answer to that. Now, because of YouTube's stupidity of not dating community posts, I don't know what order this next one comes in. But the next community post is another poll asking the watcher's first Minecraft version they've added the player. Now, I'm going to chalk this up to a translation error and assume that it's saying what version did you start playing. But if we assume the Google translation is correct, and it would be, what version did you add the player? Possibly an entity called the player. Considering the next video, I think that the original translation is correct. The next video has an English title, being Let's Go, so there's no description. But more interestingly, there is no ARG tag on this video, which could be a mistake, or it's just unrelated. But I'm going to include all of the channel's videos because it's my analysis video and I can analyze whatever the hell I want. The video opens with an old Minecraft load screen, but the splash text says, "Die." The Minecraft logo is upside down and all the options are misspelled, along with the copyright Mojang logo. The version number says beta 1.3_03. Going into the single player option, there's one world and more misspelled options. The player clicks in the selected world and says, "Converting world to Scavolus McRegion." And this may take a while, with a smiley face. Going into the world, the player's health bar is going crazy as the laggy game shows exploded craters and netherrack crosses. The player crosses some water to walk into a wooden house, in which they get teleported to somewhere else with a sign that reads, "You shouldn't be here. I'll kill you if you don't leave." We can see player-like figures over the hill, black figures with white eyes and mouth facial features. We then get a cut to a cinematic shot over the water that zooms to the player figures. It then fades to our player fighting a figure holding an axe. It has a creepy Jeff the Killer-esque face. We cut again to nighttime with the player walking to some burning structures in the distance. Cut again to the player dying to a spider with a score of 6660. The player respawns in the wood house with a leather hat, an axe, and 32 wooden planks. After staring out into the distance, we hear some crushed up 8-bit noises, and the video ends. So that was interesting. Now, I feel like I'm missing something at the end because it feels like there should be some hidden figure in the dark forest that I just couldn't see. But that does provide evidence that there is some extra added player of some sort. The face was creepy, being an overly smiley face. I'm not sure why the video gets so highly saturated at the cut. That seems to be something that the creator does constantly. The next video is also in English, and labeled Run. This was actually the first video that introduced me to this channel. For this one, we're introduced to the same version that had all the error symbols last time, with all the world slots filled up except the 4th. We see the player go into F5 with the same skin as last time, and they walk up a hill and see a gray figure with blacked out features. The figure jumps, and the game glitches, then the video ends. I want to take a break from examining and just get straight into looking at the next view. Next is Online, in English. This video shows the same version as the last video, looking into the multiplayer menu now. The user puts an experiment for the IP. As it generates, it cuts back to the IP menu with a symbol in the box. Then, let's go. Then a smiley face that extends until we're in. The world is flat with a decimated brick house with few windows and a door. The door opens and the player skin that we've seen the player use before comes rushing out. It's hard to see with how fast it goes, but its name is Player157, and he bolts towards the player. The player walks into the building and sees a music disc on the jukebox until it disappears and fire takes its place. After the fire vanishes, we see a painting of eyes and skin on the wall behind, with the Player157 staring on fire from a corner window. The next video is labeled Minecraft in English, and is pretty surreal. Probably because it's an edit. So the video confused me a lot when I watched it. I don't really feel like describing it because, I mean, you can see it right now, but in my eyes, it's just that the creator wanting to make an edit in the style of a different channel called Dream Makers. I only know this because the video they gained inspiration from is in the description. Player30 is our next video, and it's shot in a very different way. This one we get to see a full computer screen, and Minecraft running in the middle with a stone platform as the wallpaper. They use a bunch of weird transitions, but eventually get into the world. Player 2T37 appears and we see them say, "Hi," and then back away with no response. Transition to possibly another world, where 2T37 yells "Mum" in chat, I assume. Then our player starts going very fast outside, then in spectator mode while very weird noises play. Then the game crashes, where we can see the full wallpaper with a difficult to make out skin next to a door. Minesweeper opens, then a frame of the first player character we saw in a house with a mushroom on a chest. Lastly, a frame in the world with a run hotbar on a grassy field with a figure in the distance. Now Minecraft Relax is the next video, and is similar again to the nostalgia edit I mentioned before. Same music, but this video is also tagged with ARG. And don't worry, I'll start explaining some other things in a moment, but all that's really notable is the last few seconds of the video, showing the error mod, but it looks like someone teleports in the distance. Okay, now I should do some explaining, and I held off for a reason. So the edit videos, right? I was wrong about them. They do hold some relevance, even with how vague or how little information we can actually ascertain from them is. But the first one ends with the player at a flaming stone wall. Not sure that one's relevance yet, but we're clearly seeing more paranormal involvement. Now in the community post, they're referring to adding the player. So it seems to our creator that the player is something different from the player character. Now what exactly? Who knows? But it seems somehow this player may be the one causing the alternate versions to be more sinister, the reason for lag spikes, the one tormenting the player. Also, for now, I think I might just refer to the one whose eyes we're seeing through as Player30, as there is now a new player entity, so I'll just call them the players. Now that we have a bit of that cleared out, we should look at it more. And you'll understand why we may have to change this later, because it gets even more confusing. The next video is titled, "I'm Alone." This one starts in the multiplayer menu where the IP is "nice" repeated over and over. Then we see the menu screen in background. It's of the same rusted blocks, but now with bleeding eyes in them. The player gets into the world and we see a pink and red change textures everywhere. An error message pops up, then we regenerate into the world with 2 hearts. And now there are pillars in the background that reach to the sky. The world turns a blue and white shade while reversing, and then we see a drawn stick figure character with eyes and no mouth. Mysterious symbols flash as though it were trying to tell us something, yet I don't know what cipher or language we need to use. The next video is Bro Wake Up It's 2011, which just has some CS6 gameplay, so we can skip that. And next is Minecraft Old. This video actually has a Discord link in its description, which I don't know what's in there. So click at your own risk. It's probably a Discord for the ARG and likely has information that I will not get here because I'm, don't really feel like joining it. The video starts with Player30 playing with a minecart contraption and then walks around until he finds 25 Typical, another user. They walk around until 25 Typical phases out of existence with a blue and white flash. Then 30 gets teleported underground into a minecart. Cut to black. So in this one we're introduced to another character, 25 Typical. Interestingly, this video has no ARG tag, even with how closely it seems to be linked, but I can't say much about it other than what does happen. But if you really want to look into it, there are some similar structures in this world we've seen as netherrack before, like crosses with redstone torches and a little gold thing with a netherrack piece on fire. The next video is called Minecraft, which seems to be another edit with just random images of Minecraft that usually have something off about them. The only things I can discern being important are the image of a pink smiley sun with the error pack, and some other things like that one figure from before with an eye painting next to him, and text denoting him as Player 10. So just for reference, this guy is now Player 10. Then we see the wallpaper from a previous video, and a short animation of the stick figure in the error pack world. So clearly, some new breakthroughs. Also, damn, I am an idiot. So I just realized this as writing. If that guy with the specific skin is called Player 10, and the player from the first multiplayer test was Player 157, and the channel's name is Player30, god damn am I slow. Well, now we have it figured out. Player30 must be the perspective we are watching from, or maybe a pseudonym not to get caught by the player entities. The jury's out on that one, but the first makes more sense. Also, in hindsight, that's completely wrong, but we'll see why later. The next one is in Russian now, and translates to cartridge 010, which, what the hell? Where's the other ones? I'm not even sure if this is a timetable for the series at this point. It starts with an animation of the stickman waving and zooming into a camera screen with a player throwing things into a cactus. Then we get back into the house to a user named AndroidNet2012. The video then transitions to a different base with a user named Sandcool talking in chat. Then another transition to a new area in the desert. They walk up to a pixel art of Pop Bob's face in Minecraft, a famous Minecraft griefer from the time. Android keeps phasing through the block beneath him and eventually disappears with a red chat message appearing that says he died in a cactus. When logging out of the world, a splash text appears on the menu saying IP23/02/08.90:3906, which I think is supposed to be the IP in port. The user goes to multiplayer and ends the video. So now we see the trend of people in online servers disappearing randomly, because that death message and situation did not look normal, even for a glitch. Next we have a video titled in English again, called Player 10. This video opens in an interesting spot, because it looks similar to a swamp biome shot with the pink sun from the last edit video. The player looks around. Oh, god damn it. Seriously? Just like that? Fine. Okay, I'll roll with it. The air pack turns on with a new pink hunger bar. The word run passes along the screen and Player30 checks his inventory, showing the titular player skin. The player runs and runs until we cut to the player staring into the distance, looking at a mountain. Zooming in, we can just barely see a figure there. The only reason we know it's a player? Yeah, that. It's hard to tell who is barreling at us, but we know it's one of the players. Then Player30's body, instead of lying dead, floats to the sky. Let's move on to Join in the World. So we start with player using the error pack, who walks into a dark cave where the word Join Game Player 20 flashes on screen. Assuming we are now Player 20, we go down a ladder outside to retrieve a book labeled Run by Sandcool, a familiar face. It reads, Player 157, aggressive. If you read this book, throw it in the fire. Don't go into hopelessness. No options. Run. Player 10 died. Player 20, ... Player 30, ... Chance to survive like a chicken with a wolf. Chance to survive like a chicken with a wolf. Chance to survive like a chicken with a wolf. Chance to survive like a chicken with a wolf. Player 10. Is it enough to delete the world? ... Will not work. Snow, my warm friend. Creator, Sandcool. Well, that wasn't at all ominous or Damn, that's a creepy-ass face. Oh, a rose. So the player suits up to go outside, probably to burn the book. Nope, he did not. And that dumbass just literally walked into hopelessness. You know, this is why there are instructions on shampoo. So it looks like that the player number people could be allies to the actual players, or maybe players themselves. It's hard to know at this point, but we know that there is some form of alliance and a common enemy. Sandcool is allied, or at least working with Player 10, Player 20, and Player 30. And for some reason, Player 157 has gone rogue in some way, likely causing people to disappear. Let's check out the next video. Tunnel to the Abyss. This one has a player in, go figure, a tunnel with an abyss forward next to some jukeboxes with the eye paintings. They seem to have the error texture pack as well. The player walks until they reach a chest with a book called 11214 and disc 11 in it. The book is filled with black squares. There's also a transcripted conversation between Sandcool and 1. I assume this is either Player 10 or a Player 1. The transcript is worded like a poor conversation between a new learning AI. Then we see a camera to the left displaying what the player we're watching is doing. This video is actually being recorded. Well, the perspective anyway, by Player 10. Then we see a spectator angle going into Player 10, I think. Going to the end of the hall, there's a wall with the weird paintings and a number 1, with pound signs on, well, signs. Then we see a screen saying Mojang specifications, D1.2.3.0-1, followed by being in a trippy flat world and a small house. Then the player randomly falls to their death and gets transported to a prison-looking building. After that, the world crashes due to saving, and we see multiple video players showing the stone platform with the player figure and the door. Interestingly, the video files say they were recorded in 2012. The next video is called Open, which shows a giant gate with a clock on it and some book and quills on the floor. There's also some type of player behind the fence, but it's too hard to make out which type of player. Then the screen flashes a slightly lighter color and we're transported with someone new to the run pack thing. It's hard to tell based on the skin who this is, but we know it's not one of the players with numbers. It's an actual person, assumedly. Actually, I can't really tell, but I know we've seen their skin before. I just assumed they were always a version of the player. They get booted to the main menu, showing that the pack has now updated to versions with an odd background. There's a world labeled Player30, which spawns us on an island with some items. Then we see a shot of someone panning over the water, then a shot of a pink smiley sun, and then, you know what, I got no clue about this part. It shifts from someone picking up flaming items on grass to the default missing textures of a Source game. This is pretty odd considering that I'm not sure these types of missing texture blocks were implemented at the time. Hold on, give me a second. Oh, never mind, 1.4. But I have to be honest, it doesn't make much sense. But it does clarify that one person who has recorded a few times is not a player, but a real person. Unless the players are real people as well. You get what I mean. The next video is called InDev, which I might as well give you something useful if you don't know. InDev and InfDev were two different terms describing Notch's original development of Minecraft. InDev is the term for in development, mostly being classic core features and stylization. InfDev was when Notch was working on the infinite generation of Minecraft. I hope you learned something, because that's all I can really give you. Where was I? Oh, yeah, InDev. The video starts on, presumably, the other side of the fence from earlier, where our player goes down a ladder. For some reason, this opens a command line, which for only a few brief frames can be read. There's a lot of warnings that show things like illegal reflective services and that Windows 10 is an unknown version. Also, there's an error in some class libraries, but other than that, it doesn't give us much. Then we get a world generate screen with words like watering and lighting, similar to the first episode's generation, but not the same tone. We appear in a small wooden box home, with a sparse flat field, which is what you would usually spawn in classic Minecraft. While walking, a weird, what I can only describe as Steve hand texture scrolls by and the screen flashes slightly. Then the screen starts flashing with different color variations. Then we cut to some very oversaturated footage of more in-dev Minecraft. Then the player walks around and checks their inventory to find their skin is a void black. I can't really pull much from this one. It's difficult to tell who we are unless somehow we're the player figure that was originally trapped beyond the gate, going to a different version, but that's a little weird. Yeah, somehow not the weirdest we've seen. The next one is another Russian title that translates to Entry 32. The world has the odd, very subtle curve effect, and the player stares at a magenta block. Picking it up, they check it in their inventory and it shows no name. Clicking on it automatically equips it, having them teleport to the bottom of the world with the menu up. But we can see that in the background there are more magenta blocks out in the world, like an infestation. The world saves and changes the player location, changing the Steve skin and placing the error pack on the hotbar. The player walks around finding some small wooden object with redstone particles. Then we get to an area nearly completely of green and yellow wool covering the sand and grass. Looking in the background, there are more large pillars as we've seen previously. The player walks further and gets nearer to one of the pillars, showing it's made of bedrock, and the video ends. One thing I'd like to point out for this video specifically is a comment Player30 makes. Now, they do this often, but it's often vague and sometimes doesn't really pertain to information, unless it was a link to the Minecraft version on his Telegram or the Discord server. But in a chain underneath, Aristocrat, who asked if there was a record 34. Player30 said, "You will, ... Someone else asked what that meant, and Player30 responded with, "An old friend who turned out to be alive." Based on information we have so far of important characters, we have player 10, 20, 30, 157, Sandcool, and some extra players who've just vanished. Now, the only one we know has been given a status of dead is player 10. So maybe they aren't. But now we need to focus on another player, 157, in the video colloquially named after him. The video opens with a player walking in third-person mode in black void skin with the old swinging arm animation until they generate into a new hut. The player continues to walk, and then we see another perspective come up to the left, and the error pack is on it. Both cameras start moving, but the left one disappears, then reappears on the right. Then the one on the right falls out of the world and dies. Then their screen disappears. We then fade to player 157 trapped underground in some odd, transparent room with a pan out from him. And the video ends. So yeah, that was interesting. It's hard to tell if either screens were player 157, but I would say maybe the screen on the right at the end. Now, this next thing isn't too important, but the last community post from a month ago just shows off someone else using the error pack that we've seen quite a lot of. Looking at their channel, they've been around and actually doing other stuff longer, so I don't think they're actually part of the ARG. The next two videos don't seem very ARG related, as even the creator states they want to move away from it for a little bit as they're working on their own game. The video translates to bottomless and just shows dev footage. Same with the next. I hope their game dev journey is going well. Next, however, is called Mine. This one has a Windows field background with the player having a run inventory bar going up some rails. They go into a hallway of raised doors, then phase to falling in the ocean of a different world. The world is heavily pixelated and has some more bedrock pillars in the background. Now lastly, the final video at the moment, made 13 hours ago as of writing, Open Your Eyes. It starts with the DVD whirring up with the message, "Hi, join my server, Sandcool." There's severely glitched imagery with even more glitched option boxes. God knows which are which, but I assume this is an incredibly corrupted version of Minecraft. The user seemed to be trying to guess what would lead to a world and ends up opening a bedrock hole. Opening the title changes the player's location to an area with stone and andesite. The player can look backward and see a bland monochrome world, the only screen color being the red hearts, red runs, and yellow dandelion. The player continues to walk, finds a hole, and the video ends. Now I know I said it was final, and I was debating doing this or not, but since I wrote the script, there has been another video. I'm going to try and read it and keep it brief. The recorder shows an old version of Windows, with some Russian text, then booting up Minecraft to put in the server. The title of the window is Nice Game. Shortly after, the player loads in a message says Sandcool is joined, with another message asking for password verification. However, it's unclear if we're seeing this through Sandcool's eyes or not, or if Sandcool joined the server. The player leaves the area with a bone and half of their health in the world we have seen previously, just now covered in snow, and starts taking damage. They run into a palace as something seems to be following them, which we eventually cut to a bug death screen. The player resets into a building to go outside. Then cut to them teleported into a stone box, then it builds terrain to get them stuck in a lava pool, and then they seem to be transported to a beach area, which we may have seen before. The player finds a sand pit to jump into, in which we see a drawn man. Then we have a cut to a deep-fried texture pack with a run in the top as the player goes through the area. I personally didn't see any figures of any sort, but if you can point them out, go ahead. The video ends with the player looking around on an island with a Minecraft logo appearing. Something I noticed here though, which I won't mention later, is that this is an all-static video with only 2 beeping sounds, in which, I thought I saw a tiny black dot appear and disappear, but it was very, very difficult to tell. You thought it'd be over that easily? Yeah, no. This is a constantly expanding ARG, and of course it won't make very much sense at my conclusion because I didn't update for these 2 updated videos, but I'll just describe the last one to you real quick. This video starts with a Skeletor skin and a really high contrast pack with tons of redstone stuff in his inventory and chests full of random items. He makes a door and puts down a lever to open it, transporting him to the server we've been accustomed to, Minecraft, assumedly. We also know this is Sandcool, yet again, due to his join tag. He walks around the corrupted area where just things don't look right or function right. Then Sandcool spots a player in which the word Phantom appears with a symbol of a rose. The screen bugs out like crazy, which I've toned down for anyone who's photosensitive. He responds, looks around again, and then it cuts to some miscellaneous footage and text saying thanks for 2K subs, and then an image of a wooden house in a mountain. I knew the rose would be important. Anyway, I won't be mentioning this or updating at my conclusion, but I just want to let you know that, this is a cool series. Check it out if you haven't. And also, one last thing that I forgot to mention, there's this other channel, I'll be having a screenshot of it here. They've made a video about 3 different Minecraft ARGs, one of them being Player30. They're a Russian channel. I might actually take inspiration from them on those 2 other ARGs they mentioned, because they look pretty interesting, but I don't know. But check it out if you're interested in Russian ARG media, I guess. They cover it in a much shorter amount of time than I do. Anyway, back to the conclusion. And that, my friends, was Player30. This is an interesting ARG, but I'm still not entirely sure what it's about exactly. So first, I want to try and see if I can understand the ARG before I choose to critique it. Now first off, I think this creator is mainly Russian, so the language barrier should be expected, but in this ARG there are 2 groups, Sandcool with real people and players, 10, 20, 30, and 157. So based on community polls and other in-video information, the players must be an organized group of some level of high AI. It could honestly be either, based on the added player to the game community post, they seem to be in-game enemies that have evolved over time, likely first from the weird smiley things, I think. The main problem is with how vague the different groups are from each other, but it is clearly divided, just hard to tell why and how. Another thing we know is that player 10, 20, and 30 seem to be cooperative with Sandcool, so they seem to be helpful AI if they are AI. Sandcool works with the 10, 20, and 30 players who seem to be top figures if they're numbered chronologically. If so, then there are at least 157 players. It could also be that real players get turned into number players, but that's up in the air. Maybe it's just their accounts that get kidnapped? Considering the channel description and how at ease the channel is with the idea of the players, there must be a mod, since the mods and textures option is almost always available. Maybe it's similar to the one creepypasta by The Last Bacon, which I really recommend, where the mod is installed and then merged with versions itself, kind of like this one. This is a possibility, but also I think it's important to remember the channel and user is Russian. While the mix of English still throws me off, maybe it's the people that speak English and the players that are Russian. Russia is known for piracy and viruses, so there could be infected mods or bugs. Again, it's very difficult to discern the rules that the entities go by. They seem to have some access to the game's files itself and to teleport at will. It's also difficult if they're tethered to a specific world, as some seem to be able to move around on real servers, and player 10 may have the ability to delete worlds, of which we know because they said that deleting the world with player 157 was fruitless, so 157 can also transport worlds. It's so confusing. Also, one other thing I'd like to interject at the moment, the weird rainbow person from that one Bedrock Hall video, he's never explained. It wasn't clear if he was a player character or a player entity or player anything, or if he was some ethereal god or manifestation or something they unlocked. It's never elaborated upon. It doesn't make sense. But with our limited scope and vision of understanding, I don't think there's much I can personally theorize on. If any of you are interested in this ARG, I urge you to check it out, as Player30's channel will be below for you to check out. But now, I want to move on to my thoughts of the ARG itself, but honestly, it's hard to say. Now, this is obviously my first ARG that I've personally analyzed, and not just watched a YouTube video in. But I didn't see many codes that were decryptable. I saw logs of incomprehensible text and some unknown symbols, but I found nothing to decrypt them, and there must be some things I'm missing that I couldn't find. This ARG also, to me, does a few things I've never quite liked ARGs doing. First, it has its own Discord server. Now, obviously, because I'm not Russian and a very skeptical person, there was no real reason to join it, but it seems that the Player30 ARG is already difficult to discern, warranting a community Discord. So, supposedly, some of these videos or files were recorded in 2012, as we've seen before. But then there are people using Windows 10 and other dates sprinkled in files have said 2023. That's why it's so hard to discern what time frame this is. What was recorded previously? What's now? That's the main problem with trying to figure out chronological events. Another difficulty in this is trying to understand whose perspective we're looking through, and I need to emphasize how important this is. I love when ARGs change a character's perspective. There doesn't need to be a reason how we can see their view, because effectively it's a story. The main problem is that we can't discern from who is who. The first problem is definitely the idea of the players. Now, it'd be fine if we knew which was which, but they all have the same skin. Now, based on other clues, we can at least tell which one is the dangerous one, but we can't tell when we're looking through their perspective. There's also Sandcool. We don't really know who he is or what his skin is, and we don't know the significance or the other players disappearing. I hope this will become clearer in later entries, as obviously this isn't a finished story, but I would like more certainty as to who we're viewing and when, as that could easily tie up many loose threads I've come up with. Whether it's the ARG creator somehow watching this, or someone who wants to make an ARG, I want to know whose perspective we're looking from. Give me the discernible characteristics between everybody. For example, this one great Minecraft ARG, which was about a corrupted moon. If I find it, I'll show some clips of it, but this ARG had constant character switching. But it was easy to tell who was who when you were watching, because they either had discernible chat patterns, discernible skins, or very specific behaviors. But the players and real people in this one, it's difficult to tell. The only sounds we were really ever getting are beeping tones and then solemn music. I'm still trying to figure out the importance of the stick figure. He's a mystery to me, as I don't think it's one of the players, but I can't be certain. Now, it could be some idea of player 157 being a ghost in the machine and growing outside of Minecraft and making himself into MS Paint. That seems a bit far, but it's the only thing I can really think of. Or maybe the rainbow thing is the ghost in the machine and it's a representation of all of their collective AI. Again, it's so confusing. There's not really anything leading us. Now, vagueness in an ARG is a good thing, but when it's done too much, it really loses people because you can't tell what's happening. But what I can say is that this is an interesting ARG. Yes, I know the ghost in the machine and evil AI trope has been done to death, but I don't care. I love it. Just like corny shark movies, like Sharknado series, and well, I can't think of any, but if I remember any I've watched, I'll show them up on the screen now. But I like them. Now, I hope you guys liked me checking out this ARG, because this has been something I wanted to try for such a long time. I just love watching this stuff, and I'm so glad to share it with you guys. I'll definitely be doing more of these, at least a few more times, unless you guys don't like them, since I loved analyzing this one. I'm just a little disappointed that it wasn't that scary. There was never really any scares I had in this, which is fine, it doesn't need to have any. But the ARG goes off track a lot and seems to have trouble deciding what it wants to be and how it wants to tell the story, or maybe it's all purposeful and the pieces just haven't fallen into place yet. Anyway, I enjoyed it. As much as I do have criticism, I want to see it improve. But I hope you all enjoyed me rambling for another 30 minutes or so. But it's been me, Moosh, and I'll see you later. Arrivederci. Anyway, I think I'm gonna take a nap. Where the hell am I?